Well, hi, welcome back to Cricket Leg Creative. This is Julie. I want to show you today an easy card to make using minimal supplies, just a couple of circle dies and some markers and things, and a stamp. But what we're going to start off with main supplies are circle dies and some markers. I do have one Copic in this particular card color scheme, but the rest of mine, most of mine are Ohuhu markers, and I'm kind of slowly replacing with Copic. And I've got some Hero Arts Infinity circle dies, nesting dies. I'm just going to use two. You can make the donut any size you want, so it's the size of the donut and the hole. And here's a card I made previously. We're kind of going to basically copy that basic design. So to get started, I've got my larger and smaller die. I'm just going to tape them in place onto some plain white cardstock. It's scrap cardstock actually, and run it through my die cut machine once. I actually didn't put the plates on very well there, and I have to move the plate and run it through again so it would cut all the way. So that's going to make one donut, and I'm just going to take that apart, and then I'm going to place the one that I did. Actually, I'm not remembering how I did it for a second there, but taking the donut that I just cut and putting it in to, on top of the paper, and then taping the dies in place over it so I can get them exactly the same. And I thought that this would, the last time I tried this, there I didn't put the place on right again. The last time I tried this, it made an indentation. And so then I took the first donut off and then placed the dies in place and cut it. But this time, for some reason, it cut them both. So that was handy. Anyway, so then what you're left with is these two donut shapes. And we're going to kind of stagger them like I did in that other card. But the first thing I want to do, because they're not perfect, I'm trying to line up the holes exactly. And then I'm going to make a mark on the back so I can tell where they go together. So I'm going to place, once I've figured out, there they go. I'm going to stagger them where I want them to be, and then flip them over and just take a pencil and make a line on the back so that I can line them up exactly. And this is going to help me when I go to do the coloring of really just the bottom one to kind of make it look more donut-like. I kind of screwed that up this time, but it ends up looking okay. So it's very forgiving technique. So I always like to work with a piece of paper underneath because I'm kind of a messy colorer. There you can see I'm lining up those lines again just to see where that goes. But anyway, I'm taking the top one. I'm just taking kind of a medium brown color and coloring over the whole thing. I've sped this up because it's kind of boring. Now the first coat or the first layer of color that you do, you're going to be able to see all the lines. That's not a big deal. You're just going to keep going over it until the lines start to disappear. The more you saturate the paper with an alcohol marker, the more those lines will go away and you won't see anymore. So that's all I'm doing here, is just continuing to color until you can't really see lines. You can just see color. And it'll take maybe 2 or 3 or 4, depending on your paper and on how wet your marker is, to kind of just get that kind of seamless look. So done with that. And the next thing I'm going to do is take my lighter color marker. And what I was trying to do was to duplicate what I had done in the first card that I showed you, where I had kind of a, I don't know, you know how donuts have that line around the middle that's a little bit lighter than the rest of the donut. And so I'm coloring in the places where that bottom circle is going to be visible, and again going over it so that my lines are not visible. It's not as super important with this color because I'm going to go over it with a little bit darker color. Not as dark as the chocolate on the top of the donut, but I'm trying to check my marks there and find the middle so I can see where my curve is going to be. What I end up doing is coloring in too far, and so where my donuts meet, it actually covers up the little lighter baking line I was trying to, or frying line, whatever, that I was trying to make. But this is basically how you do it, is you just allow a little bit of that lighter color to show through, and then you can go over it with that lighter color and it'll blend it a little bit more, make it a little more subtle. But what ends up happening for me here is that I colored too high up, and so I ended up obscuring that lighter color altogether when I matched up my lines. And I didn't really want to raise it up that much more. So all I did to take care of that after I've colored that in is I took back, or I went back to my lighter marker, to the brush tip of the lighter marker, and I just went down a little further. And what happens is a lighter marker will start to remove color from underneath. So I still was able to get that kind of lighter colored dough um, effect, even though I didn't quite get it the way I had done it the first time. That's what I like about using these markers too, is a lot of times you can kind of fix your mess ups by just going over it with other colors. And that's something that I learned from a Copic marker master, Sandy Allnock, on YouTube, and she never gives up on something. She just keeps going and finds a way to fix it. So I was pretty happy with that. So I'm just taking my Gina K Connect, and I'm going to put some glue on there, and then glue the top, the chocolate icing layer onto the top of the donut, matching up that pencil line. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. I thought it was helpful. I wanted to make sure that I was lining it up the way I wanted it to. So, and I'm just using an acrylic block to kind of press down on that a little bit to make sure they're adhered to each other. So the next step is going to be to make some sprinkles. Now, if you have colored cardstock in these colors already, that's great. I don't always have a great color selection. I might have one or two colors that I like, but I really wanted to custom make the sprinkle colors. And so I chose 4 colors, a yellow, a green, a pink, and a blue. And I'm just taking that scrap that I cut the donuts out of and drawing some strips of color. And then I'm just going to use my paper trimmer and cut thin strips. You can make this is for the sprinkles. You can make it any width you want, as long as they're all about the same. And I'm cutting 2 or 3 of each one, and that I'll end up cutting into little smaller sprinkle sizes. And those are going to end up going on the donut and at the bottom of the card. So I'm just cutting those out now. I think this is a great way to be able to make your card look custom, because you can make all the colors match. Now this, I apparently got a little too ambitious putting a top back on my marker, and I ended up like cutting off part of the chisel tip. I don't use the chisel tips very much, but I have been using them recently to do kind of backgrounds for sentiment. So anyway, that one is a little wonky, wah, wah, wah. But anyway, so I'm just taking the chisel tip, and I'm sorry, I'm a little off camera there, and just drawing some diagonal thick lines, alternating colors, and that is going to be what the sentiment is going to be stamped onto. And that's just a neat way to kind of coordinate with the sprinkles. And that's another benefit of using markers rather than just paper, is that I can actually make my own pattern paper, which is kind of fun. So that goes pretty quickly too, and I didn't worry about it being super neat, because I feel like it just doesn't seem to matter. Like, you could be super exact about it, but the times that I've done this, it's looked great even when the stripes weren't perfect. So the next thing I do is I've got this new to me, Avery Elle stamp set, a little birthday set. It's really cute. And I've got a birthday wishes stamp. Again, sorry, I'm a little off camera. I have a new cutting mat, and I normally had my old cutting mat taped into place so that I knew exactly where the frame was for my phone camera. But I've got this new mat, and I don't have it taped down, and so it's moving around. I really need to tape it down. And I've also got a new Archon mount for my phone, so that I don't have to rig it weird with a selfie stick. And so I'm just learning how to use all my new stuff I got for Christmas. But there's the sentiment strip. It turned out really nicely. I really love that look. So now I'm just taking all the strips together and cutting them at about the same length to make these sprinkles. And again, these don't have to be exact. I mean, you can if you want to, but would be a lot of work to try to make them exact. I put some of the Gina K Connect glue out on a piece of paper because to try to glue something so tiny, to put the glue directly onto it, the sprinkle, and then tape it, it's just going to be too much glue. So I'm using some tweezers, some craft tweezers, to kind of drag the little sprinkle paper across some glue so there's not as much glue. There's still a little bit, and you kind of have to wipe it off. You'll see me occasionally wiping off some of the glue that gets on my fingers or whatever, or kind of oozes out from underneath the sprinkles. But this is what took the most time. The rest of it's pretty fast, but just placing all these little sprinkles everywhere, it's not hard to do. It takes a little bit of time, but it's pretty easy. I do think that I really missed having the white sprinkles that I had on that original card. I didn't do white sprinkles on this one, and for some reason I think it just looks better with white sprinkles mixed in. But you could do any color sprinkles you want. I think it would be really fun to take some small paper punches, maybe hearts, and maybe do like a Valentine theme. You could do all pink and white and red, or lavenders and things like that, and then add some hearts in for some sprinkles. So I finished the donut sprinkles, and now I'm doing this card just a little bit differently. I'm going to put some sprinkles at the bottom of the page, and then the sentiment is going to go over top of that. So same technique, just dragging it through some of the glue. So much easier than trying to glue, to apply the glue on the back of teeny tiny things. It goes a lot faster this way. But yeah, so you could also do this with, if you have sprinkles, not sprinkles, sequins or confetti or some other kind of paper accessory type stuff, accent stuff. You could take those and try to use those too on the card. That could be a really fun look, and maybe if they were shiny, it would be a little more glam looking. But I just like the idea that I really didn't need a lot of supplies for this, and I could make my own kind of confetti sprinkles, and that they could be custom. I really kind of like to try to find ways to make cards that don't require a lot of different, dies or stamps or something. Because I mean, I'm kind of coming back to stamping after taking quite a bit of a break over the years, and there's so much more stuff than there was when I was stamping back in the 90s. And I don't have a ton of stuff. I see a lot of fun projects on YouTube and on Instagram, and I'm like, oh, that looks awesome. I'd love to do that. But I don't have all those supplies, and I can't just go buy all that stuff. So I try to find ways to make cards out of what I have. And they are simpler. These cards end up being a lot more simple looking, but I think they're still pretty fun. And if you were to send this to somebody, I think they would just think that was so awesome that you made them a card, So I think I'm going to add, just a few more sprinkles here to kind of finish off the look. You could also do like the other card where I had them just kind of sprinkled all over, but I really like this look that they're kind of all fallen to the bottom of the card. So now I'm going to take my sentiment and add some double stick foam rectangles. I don't even remember where I got these. I think I got them at Hobby Lobby or something. There's all kinds of companies that have, dimensional tape, double stick tape that you can use. It helps to put it all across so that it's stable. As you're going to be putting this probably in the mail, it's going to get squished. You don't want it to get all messed up. So now I'm going to take the same foam squares and put them on the back of the donut. And you don't have to do that. You could just glue everything down, but I think that adding dimension to a card kind of elevates it, even though you haven't done anything, you haven't added anything visual or colors or stickers or anything like that. It just kind of makes things pop a little bit more. So maybe consider that when you're buying some supplies. But that's it. It's just a simple card. You could certainly use patterned papers or whatever you want on it, but this is just a fun card to make with minimal supplies. So make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can see my next video. Thanks for stopping by. Y'all take care.